2021 movie, Little Fish, directed by Chad Hartigan, who's also responsible for writing the screenplay with screenwriters Mattson Tomlin, and it's based on a short story by Aja Gabal. In the cast, Olivia Cook in the lead role plays Emma, Jack O'Connell is Jude, Soko plays Samantha, Ralph Castillo plays Ben, David Lennon is Tim, Mackenzie Cardwell, Cat Girl, and described by Dennis Swartz as grim but beautifully made film. The film lays out a fictional mysterious pandemic called neuroinflammatory affliction, where for no reason victims lose their memories, and it's an intriguing film and asks whether it's possible to forget that you love someone as your memory slowly slips away. Reminds the critic here of Memento, which was put together by Christopher Nolan back in 2001. So Emma and Jude are newly married. They come from Seattle, and it's how they cope with this disease. Emma's a veterinary technician at an animal shelter. She narrates and reads notes from a notebook during the outbreak, and the narration takes us to flashbacks which cover the difficulties that the disease causes, and this focus on the fish section of a pet store. Jude's a photographer. He's a former addict, clean now, and he contracts the disease, and it manifests itself much like Alzheimer's, and the small circle of friends includes songwriter, bass guitar player Ben, girlfriend Samantha. It's a Dementia Story using the cover of Sci-Fi. It gives a damning story about what happens when you lose contact with your memory, your past. It lets us ponder how memories shape our lives. It's a film that asks lots of questions and philosophies about life. It's not a sugary presentation. It's rather haunting. It matches this with its musical score. It's a love story. Strange opening scene on a beach. A young girl, we assume Emma, is distracted by a dog that appears. As she looks up, patting the dog, she sees a young man and asks him, is it his dog? He completely ignores that question and seems to be not really on the same page. And this may well be the beginning of their relationship. Emma narrates, so we catch an early coming together when they're at separate Halloween parties. A brief sort of synopsis of the profile. Jude with his camera, his photography. She with her vet. It's all part and parcel of how a relationship starts to build up after the initial attraction. Emma then goes through a series of events which appear on the face of it to be quite miraculous, but are all as a consequence of this memory failure. For example, a fisherman who failed to recall how to steer a boat, so decided to jump in the sea and swim to the shore, and he's saved by another fisherman's boat. A runner who fails to stop at the completion of the distance are two examples of this disease. We catch Emma at the animal shelter as she receives a couple of dogs in cages that have been delivered there. The driver, who's obviously there regularly, forgotten her name. Another instance. We witness the horrid task she has at the animal shelter of putting dogs to sleep. At this point I almost felt like stopping the movie. It's hideous. This awareness of this disease puts it on a completely different perspective with conversations where someone has forgotten. Is it just a natural forgetfulness, or is it an indicator of this disease? And we get faced with that in a number of situations. Heart-wrenching chat between Jude and Emma about the dog that she put to sleep and how she wanted to be able to call him and save the dog, and he puts a reality stamp on the whole thing, saying that 1 could become 10, could become 20. There's then an instance while they're making dinner when Jude refers to his shame that he can't take another puppy, which is in complete contravention of what he said a little earlier on the bus, which rather makes Emma somewhat alarmed. This discourse provokes anxiety that he is starting to show the same symptoms as their friend Ben, who they know to have the disease. It's alarming, extremely disturbing. Jack O'Connell, really impressed with his acting skills. A lovely little scene involving the two, sort of like second date, and the issue of sex comes up, and it's a sort of very sort of natural, warm sharing of warm feelings, but with a sense of sort of, let's not take this too quickly. Jude gets accepted into this clinical trial. Upon arrival at the centre, it sort of mimics COVID with masks on. How that might have an impact on this disease being spread to the memory, one will ever know. The initial sort of interview with the doctor in the trial, Q&A, then leads to Jude asking about what the treatment idea is, and the doctor then goes on to describing detailed aspects of the brain and the separate functions of pieces of the brain, and this completely gets lost in Jude's listening function and becomes a sort of garbled mess which he is unable to decipher. The vagueness of the trial, which would then lead to sort of surgery infiltrating the brain, has really freaked Jude out. And when he shares this with Emma and says that he's not prepared to go down that road, they end up in a huge argument because she thinks he's just giving up. There's a scene where Emma tests out Jude's recall, and it's almost in such a way where she's sort of so tense, waiting in anticipation of the answer, hoping that it's a correct recollection rather than a false one. In an aquarium, Jack asks Emma to marry him. It's a very, very warm scene, surrounded by all these tanks full of beautiful fish, aimlessly swimming round and round and round. In an intimate moment, the director uses a split screen to maximise the sensitivity through touch as the two of them are embracing. We witness a meltdown with friend Ben, who completely loses it, can't recall his girlfriend Samantha, grabs knives, but Jude manages to calm him down. NRA, he's suffering as well. The movie then moves on to this supposed cure following the trial and the impact and ramifications on the public, and viral videos of so-called doctors professing that they have the step-by-step means towards a cure, which prompts a number to try it on themselves with quite drastic results. It's very much reflective of some of the drastic decision making that followed COVID. We see the sort of highs and lows, really, the initial states of optimism on this trial that's suggesting a cure, and then the low when it is turned down based on the fact there's some drugs in his system and he can't remember, but it appears he may well have sniffed cocaine with a friend recently. But it's this roller coaster of emotions relating to this really serious problem. The narration by Emma continues to pick at memories forgotten, incidents that were remembered, all little jewels that one has when one walks through relationships with special people, particularly girlfriends, wives, etc., husbands, boyfriends. The trust between the two is put to the extreme when Jude asks Emma to carry out the procedure involving placing a needle in the stem of the brain, which he's read online is a guaranteed foolproof. There's all this uncertainty after he blacks out as to whether this needle into the base of the spine through the mouth had any impact, rather than a sort of fit and then a passing out. But the film nurtures us through with their love for each other, which sort of reaches above all this other business. Post brain stem injection, they go away on a sort of retreat, and then at night in front of a log fire, very romantic, Jude tells Emma that when he woke up in the morning he didn't recognise her, so he's convinced it hasn't worked. Jude delivers a heart-wrenching
speech to Emma about his intense love for her and his need to get it out before all his memory of her fades. It's a pretty sort of tear-jerking episode in this film. As they turn to the city, a roadblock, police checking IDs for a database on missing persons. The quantity of people that have disappeared is increasing. And then back to work, and a stray dog delivered to the animal market. And then, because of the new delivery person, comes into question as Emma now started to develop this disease. On the beach there's an altercation, and when you, the viewer, are asked the question, has he now completely forgotten her? Because he pushes her away and strikes her as she pleads with him. It's extremely disturbing.